Why is decarbonization in the building sector so important?
In EU countries, buildings consume more than 40% of final energy. Many of these buildings are real energy vampires. They use far too much power, and for now, most of it comes from burning fossil fuels.
Does this refer to apartments and houses?
No, we're not talking only about houses and apartments, but also about offices, shopping centers, public buildings such as government offices, schools, and industrial facilities.
Which of these buildings is particularly challenging?
Heritage buildings for sure. It's usually not possible to install external insulation in these buildings, which significantly reduces energy modernization options.
Where does this energy come from?
Buildings are connected to the electric grid, and in cities also to the district heating network, but many buildings still depend on burning coal or gas.
So, it is a matter of insulating buildings, isn't it?
Not only, it's about ensuring thermal control to residents through heating and cooling, as well as guaranteeing fresh air through proper ventilation. Of course, lighting is also important, allowing energy for our vacuum cleaners, stoves, TV sets, etc.
I used to have a gas boiler at my house, but I replaced it with a photovoltaic system and a heat pump. Does it mean my house is climate neutral now?
Not necessarily. It depends on what energy sources supply the grid. Modernizing these systems is a costly but necessary endeavor.
But are we able to consistently produce enough renewable energy to meet the needs of all the residents?
No, and that's why we also need to reduce energy demand in various ways, such as by regulating sunlight exposure. Additionally, energy storage is essential.
I live in an old building. I guess modern buildings do not pose such challenges.
New buildings certainly have lower emissivity connected to the building usage. However, emissions are also generated during construction and demolition at the end of building's life cycle.
And how does the building's life cycle start?
It starts with an investor, usually a developer, who gets the funds, the land, and all the necessary permits.
So, there are no emissions at this point?
Not yet. That's right. Also, the design stage doesn't involve any emissions. But a parallel process, the extraction of resources needed for building components, construction, furnishing, and necessary infrastructure is highly emissive.
Is it even possible to avoid CO2 emissions related to the production of components and construction?
Unfortunately, many technologies such as steel or cement production are still quite carbon intensive. On top of that, we have to remember about emissions from transportation, the actual construction, and all the necessary installations.
Finally, a building is constructed and people move in.
Exactly. And depending on how the building is designed and constructed, they use more or less of various types of energy.
Well, but everything gets worn out at some point.
And then the energy performance of the building can deteriorate. That's why regular inspections, maintenance, and repairs are necessary.
Surely old buildings require more work.
Yes, these buildings often need extensive thermal modernization.
When do buildings die?
Their life ends with demolition, but they should be designed in a way that makes dismantling possible.
Why is it better to dismantle rather than demolish?
Dismantling enables us to reuse materials and components, which reduces the emissions related to mining and producing new resources.
Who should get interested and involved in building decarbonization? After all, not all builders and residents should care, right?
Of course, a lot of other stakeholders should be involved in the process. Insurers, NGOs, the media, district councils, city authorities, government entities, to name just a few.
Then, how to achieve climate neutrality in the construction and housing sector?
Certainly, the knowledge and experience of many stakeholders and experts are necessary. Your involvement is also important.